The rain-slicked streets of Seville gleamed under the street lamps like veins of molten silver. And I, Mila Rivera, had just done the unthinkable. My lips crashed against Melody Harrington's in a kiss born of pure spiteful fire. A dare wrapped in desperation. Right there in the shadowed alcove of her family's crumbling hacienda. She tasted like aged wine and unspoken fury, her hands frozen on the arms of her wheelchair as if the world had tilted off its axis, and in that split second, I knew I'd ignited a war neither of us could win. Her breath hitched, a sound like shattering glass in the downpour, and she shoved me back. Not with force, but with the precision of someone who'd learned to wield control from a seat that the world deemed a cage. What the hell was that, Mila? Melody's voice cracked like thunder over the Guadalquivir. Her green eyes blazing with a mix of betrayal and something dangerously close to hunger. I wiped my mouth, smirking through the sting of regret already clawing at my chest, because provoking the Harrington heiress wasn't just a game. It was suicide wrapped in silk. And as the storm raged on, drenching us both, I realized too late that the lesson she was about to teach me would unravel every lie I'd built around my heart. The air in Seville always carried that heavy jasmine-laced humidity, the kind that clung to your skin like a lover's regret. I'd come to Spain on a whim, or so I told myself, a freelance photographer chasing light and shadows through the labyrinthine alleys of Andalusia, far from the sterile grip of my life back in Brooklyn. But truth be told, I was running. From a string of bad gigs, from the ex who'd carved out my trust like a pumpkin at Halloween, from the nagging whisper that at 26, I was still chasing ghosts instead of building something real. That's when I stumbled into the Harrington orbit. Or rather crashed into it. The family owned half the olive groves stretching toward Córdoba. Their wealth old as the Moors, rooted in soil that whispered secrets of conquest and loss. Melody was the crown jewel. The only Harrington left with fire in her veins after a riding accident 5 years back had stolen her legs but not her spirit. I'd met her at a flamenco bar off the Plaza de España, where the air thrummed with guitar strings and the sharp click of heels on terracotta. She was there with her cousin Elena, a whirlwind of laughter in Rioja, but Melody sat apart, her wheelchair tucked against the bar like an afterthought, her fingers tracing the rim of a half-empty glass. I noticed her first because she didn't notice anyone. In a room full of peacocks preening for attention, she was the quiet storm, elegant in a midnight blue dress that hugged her like it knew her secrets, auburn waves pinned loosely, green eyes scanning the crowd with the detachment of someone who'd seen too much. I, on the other hand, was all flash. Chestnut curls wild from the humidity, freckles blooming across my nose like errant stars, a camera slung over my shoulder like a shield. I bought her a drink. She accepted with a wry smile that said she knew exactly what game I was playing. We talked for hours. Or rather, I talked about the way the Alhambra's arches framed the stars like forgotten prayers, about how New York's chaos made Seville feel like a dream you didn't want to wake from. She listened, her laugh low and throaty, like aged whiskey poured over ice. Melody was 31 going on timeless, an art curator who'd turned her family's dusty gallery into a beacon for contemporary voices. The accident? She brushed it off as a bad day with a horse named Diablo, but I saw the flicker in her eyes, the way her hands tightened on her armrests when the music swelled too fierce. By the end of the night, Elena had dragged her away, but not before Melody slipped me her card. Embossed gold, her name scripted like poetry. If you're half as good with that camera as you are with words, come shoot the gallery sometime. It was an invitation or a challenge. I took it as both. Weeks blurred into a rhythm of stolen moments. I'd show up at the Harrington Hacienda, a sprawling estate on the outskirts of Seville where terracotta roofs baked under the relentless sun and fountains murmured like old confidantes. The place was a relic, faded frescoes peeling like sunburnt skin, gardens overrun with bougainvillea that clawed at the sky. Melody's grandfather had built it as a monument to faded glory, and now it was hers to salvage or let crumble. Our session started professional. Me framing shots of her amid canvases splashed with defiant colors, her posing with that effortless grace that made the wheelchair vanish in the lens. But the air between us thickened, charged like the moments before a siesta storm. We'd linger after, sharing cigarettes on the veranda, the smoke curling lazy toward the Sierra Morena. She'd tell me about the artists she championed, queer voices from Brooklyn to Barcelona, women who'd painted their pain into power. I'd confess my own fractures, the mother who'd left when I was 12, the string of flings that always ended in dawn's cold light. "You're like a wildfire, Mila," she said one afternoon, as we watched the sun dip low, painting the groves in hues of amber and regret. "Beautiful, but you leave ashes in your wake." Her words landed soft, but they stung. I laughed it off, flicking ash over the railing, but inside something twisted. Because Melody saw me, really saw me, and it terrified the hell out of me. Elena noticed too. Melody's cousin was all sharp edges and sharper tongue. A lawyer who'd grown up in the hacienda's shadows, always one step behind the golden girl. "Stay away from her, heart Yankee," she'd warned me over coffee in the kitchen, her dark eyes narrowing like a hawk's. "Melody's been burned before. Badly." I didn't ask for details. I didn't want to know. Jealousy simmered low in my gut. Not of Elena, but of the history they shared. The ease with which she navigated Melody's world while I felt like an intruder, snapping photos to capture what I couldn't hold. The provocation started small. A brush of fingers when handing over a lens cap. A lingering gaze during a shoot, my eyes tracing the curve of her neck where her pulse fluttered like a trapped bird. Melody played along, her smiles turning teasing, her voice dropping to that husky timbre that made my knees weak. But there was always a wall, subtle, unyielding. She'd pull back just as the heat built, citing a meeting or a migraine, wheeling away with apologies that felt like silk over steel. I told myself it was the chase, the thrill of cracking her open. But late at night, in my cramped apartment above a tapas joint, I'd stare at the ceiling fans whirring like accusations, and admit the truth. I was falling hard and unbidden, for the woman who'd built her life on ruins. The kiss happened on a night when the moon hung bloated over the city, casting the hacienda in silver and shadow. Elena had thrown one of her infamous gatherings, a fundraiser for the gallery, disguised as a casual soiree. The courtyard buzzed with Seville's elite. Artists in thrift store chic, expats nursing sangria, flamenco dancers weaving through the crowd like smoke. I arrived late, camera in tow, capturing the chaos, the swirl of skirts, the flash of jewelry, the way laughter echoed off the stone walls like distant thunder. Melody was at the center, radiant in an emerald gown that matched her eyes, her wheelchair adorned with a garland of jasmine Elena had insisted on. She caught my gaze across the throng, and for a moment the world narrowed. Just her smile, slow and knowing, pulling me under like the tide. But then I saw them. Elena, leaning close to Melody's ear, her hand resting possessively on the back of the chair, whispering something that made Melody throw her head back in laughter. A sound so intimate it twisted the knife in my chest. They looked like they belonged. Two Harringtons, blood and bone, unbreakable. Me? I was the outsider, the spark that would fizzle out. Rage boiled up, hot and irrational. I crossed the courtyard in a haze, snatching a glass of Rioja from a passing tray. By the time I reached her, Elena had melted into the crowd, leaving Melody alone amid a circle of admirers. "Dance with me," I said, voice low, extending my hand like a gauntlet thrown. She arched a brow, amusement flickering. "You know I can't." "Bullshit." The word slipped out sharper than intended. Heads turned, but I didn't care. The alcohol burned in my veins, fueling the storm. "It's not about legs, Mel. It's about heart." Her expression shifted, wary now, the wall slamming up. "Mila, not here." But I was beyond reason. I dropped to one knee, eye level with her, the courtyard fading to a hum. Prove me wrong. And then, reckless as a fever dream, I leaned in. My lips met hers, not soft, not tentative, but a collision. Fierce, demanding, tasting of wine and desperation. She stiffened then, God help me, softened for a heartbeat, her hand rising to cup my jaw, fingers trembling against my skin. The world exploded back into focus with Elena's gasp. "What the actual fuck, Mila?" I pulled away, heart hammering, Melody's eyes wide with shock and something deeper, wounded. The crowd murmured, a ripple of scandal spreading like spilled ink. Elena's face was thunder, her arm shooting out to steady Melody, who looked like she'd been struck. Not by me, but by the exposure, the raw vulnerability I dragged into the light. "Get out," Elena hissed, low and venomous. "You've done enough." I stood, legs unsteady, the taste of her still lingering like a curse. Melody wouldn't meet my eyes, her gaze fixed on the jasmine wilting at her feet. Rain began to fall then, fat drops splattering the stones, as if the sky itself wept for the fracture I'd wrought. I fled into the night, the hacienda's gates clanging shut behind me like a judge's gavel. But as I stumbled through the downpour soaked to the bone, I knew this wasn't the end. It was the spark. And Melody Harrington? She wasn't one to let a fire die unanswered. Back in my apartment, the walls closed in. The fans were a mocking echo of the courtyard's chaos. I scrolled through the shots I'd taken earlier, Melody mid-laugh, light catching the gold flecks in her eyes, her wheelchair a throne amid the revelry. Deleting them felt like amputation. Keeping them like hoarding shrapnel. Sleep evaded me, chased away by replays. The press of her lips soft yet unyielding. The way her breath had caught, a secret surrendered. What had I expected? Gratitude? Reciprocation? No, deeper down I craved the chaos, to shatter her poise, to force her to feel as unsteady as I did. Because loving Melody wasn't safe. It was a dive into depths where I might drown. Dawn crept in, gray and unforgiving, painting the room in hues of regret. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Gallery. Noon. We need to talk. No signature, but I knew. Melody's card still burned a hole in my wallet. I went. Of course I did. The gallery was a sanctuary of light and shadow. High-ceilinged rooms in a restored convent overlooking the river. Canvases screamed silent rebellions. A queer artist's mosaic of fractured mirrors, reflecting bodies in flux. Another storm-tossed seas, waves crashing like unspoken desires. Melody was there, alone in the main hall, sunlight slanting through arched windows to halo her form. She wheeled toward me without preamble, her face a mask of composure cracked at the edges. You crossed a line last night, she said, voice even, but her hands gripped the wheels tight enough to whiten her knuckles. That wasn't a kiss, Mila. It was an assault. The word landed like a slap. I'm sorry. I got carried away. The jealousy, Elena. It messed with my head. Her laugh was bitter, echoing off the stone. Jealousy? Of what? My cousin's been my rock since the accident. She's family. You're a complication. I stepped closer, the air between us humming with unsaid things. Complication? Is that all I am? Because when I look at you, Mel, I see more. I see the woman who laughs at bad poetry, who fights for art that scares people. The one who makes this city feel like home. She held my gaze unflinching. And what do you see when you look in the mirror? A girl playing at rebellion? Or someone ready to stay? The question hung heavy as the heat outside. I wanted to lie, to spin some Brooklyn bravado, but her eyes stripped me bare. I don't know, I whispered. But I want to find out. With you. For a moment hope flickered, her lips parting, a softness in her posture. Then the door swung open, Elena striding in like avenging fury, folders clutched like weapons. Mel, the donors are waiting. And you? She jabbed a finger at me. Don't think last night changes anything. She's trouble, Prima. Always has been. Melody's shoulders tensed, the moment shattering. Enough, Elena. Mila, go. Please. I left, the river's murmur mocking my retreat. But as I crossed the bridge, phone in hand, a new message pinged. Not over. Dinner. My place. 8 Melody's number this time. A lifeline or a trap. Either way I was hooked. That night, the hacienda felt different, intimate. The grand halls softened by candlelight. Melody had dismissed the staff, leaving just us and the ghosts. We ate on the terrace. Paella fragrant with saffron, wine from her family's vines. Conversation danced around the kiss, skirting edges like flamenco skirts. Tell me about the accident, I ventured, emboldened by the Merlot. Her fork paused. Why? So you can pity me? No. So I can know you. She sighed, setting down her utensils. It was a charity hunt. Show pony stuff. Diablo spook thunder, maybe. I hit the ground wrong. Woke up in a hospital that smelled like bleach and bad decisions. Her voice steadied. Lost the use of my legs. Gained a lifetime of inspirational bullshit. But it clarified things. Art family. They matter. Flings. They fade. Is that what this is? A fling. Her eyes met mine stormy. Depends on you. I reached across the table, lacing my fingers with hers. No kiss this time, just touch, electric and tender. We talked until stars pricked the sky, vulnerabilities spilling like confessions. She spoke of lovers who'd fled post-accident, of the isolation that hardened her shell. I admitted my fear of roots, of becoming my mother's ghost gone before dawn. As the night deepened, she wheeled us to the garden, where night-blooming cereus unfurled like secrets. "Stay," she murmured, her hand in mine a promise. I did, curling beside her on a cushioned chaise, the wheelchair close as breath. Sleep came in fits, her warmth a anchor against dreams of falling. But dawn brought Elena, hammering at the door with accusations of sabotage, donors spooked by the scene. Whispers of scandal threatening the gallery's funding. "You used her, Mila." "To what? Feel alive?" "She's not your redemption arc." Melody defended me, voice steel. "This is my choice, Elena. Back off." The cousin stormed out, but the seed was planted, doubt festering. Was I using her? The kiss replayed my spite a specter. Yet when Melody turned to me, her smile tentative, I pushed it down. For now. Days turned to weeks, a fragile rhythm forming. Shoots became dates. Picnics in the orange groves where I'd feed her slices tart with juice. Gallery openings where her hand found mine under the table. Seville wrapped us in its embrace. The call of street vendors hawking churros, the wail of a distant saxophone weaving through siesta hours. Love bloomed quiet, profound. Notes left in my camera bag, her fingers tracing my freckles like constellations. But cracks spiderwebbed. Elena's barbs grew sharper, her loyalty a wedge. "She's leaving, you know. Back to New York come fall. Photo book deadline." The words slithered in during a tense lunch, Melody absent. I confronted her that evening, rain lashing the windows like judgment. "Is it true? You're bailing." She wheeled closer, rain mirroring the storm in her eyes. "It's a 6-month gig. Guggenheim wants my curation for their queer exhibit. I can't say no." "And us? What are we, Mel?" "A summer thing." Her face crumpled. "I don't know. This us, it's real. But I'm scared. Of needing you, of you vanishing like the rest." The betrayal stung. Not hers but mine own history echoing. "I'm not them. But if you doubt me." I trailed off, the unsaid hanging. She reached for me, pulling me down to her level. Our foreheads touched, breaths mingling. "Don't make me choose, Mila." "Not yet." I kissed her then, gentle, apologetic, a seal on fragile peace. But peace is fleeting in Andalusia's heat. The Guggenheim offer hung over us like a guillotine. Its blade dulled but inevitable. Melody threw herself into preparations, late nights cataloging pieces, her study a warren of sketches and shipping manifests. I'd watch from the doorway, coffee in hand, marveling at her focus, the way her brow furrowed like a Renaissance portrait come alive. "You're a force," I'd say, and she'd glance up, that half-smile disarming me every time. But Elena prowled the edges, a shadow with teeth. She'd corner me in the kitchens, her voice a hiss over the sizzle of tortilla. "You're poisoning her, you know. That exhibit? It's her legacy. And you're the distraction that'll tank it." I'd fire back, defending our stolen moments. The way Melody's laughter rang freer now, her touches lingering like sunlight on stone. But doubt crept in, insidious as the humidity seeping through cracked shutters. My own work suffered. The photo book deadline loomed. A siren call back to Brooklyn's grind. Editors emailed relentlessly. "Where's the Spain series, Rivera? We need grit, not romance." I'd stare at my laptop, cursor blinking like an accusation, then slam it shut. How could I capture Seville's soul when mine was tangled in auburn hair and green eyes? The breaking point came mid-July during Feria de Julio, the city's fever dream of parades and fireworks, streets alive with polka-dotted dresses and the stomp of casetas. Melody insisted we go, her wheelchair navigating the crowds with determined grace. "Live a little," she teased, pinning a flower in my curls. We danced, or rather I spun around her, the guitar's wail pulling us into a private orbit amid the chaos. Elena was there, of course, with a coterie of gallery backers, her smile a blade sheathed in charm. She pulled Melody aside for just a minute, but minutes stretched, their heads bent close over champagne flutes. I nursed a cerveza, the foam bitter on my tongue, watching as Elena's hand rested on Melody's knee, a gesture too familiar, too claiming. When they returned, Melody's cheeks were flushed, her eyes evasive. "Everything okay?" I asked, voice tight. "Fine. Donor stuff." But the lie hung acrid. Later, as fireworks bloomed overhead like shattered emeralds, Elena sidled up. She's confiding in me, Mila. About you. How you're holding her back. The words were venom, but worse was the ring of truth. Hadn't Melody confessed the same fears, whispered in the dark? I confronted her on the way home. The carriage rattling over cobblestones, fireworks fading to echoes. What's going on with you two? Really? Melody's jaw set. Elena's worried. About the exhibit about us. She's right. I'm stretched thin. And me? Am I the problem? The words escaped raw and ragged. She sighed, the sound heavy. You're everything. And that's the issue. I can't lose focus now. The carriage lurched to a stop at the hacienda gates. But the real halt was in her eyes, distant, guarded. I stormed out, slamming the door, the night air cool against my burning skin. Inside I packed a bag, not all the way, just enough to threaten. Maybe space is what we need. Her voice cracked from the doorway. Don't do this, Mila. Not like this. But I did. I drove into the city, crashing at a friend's flat above the Triana market. The Guadalquivires murmur a lullaby of loss. Days blurred. Aimless walks through the Barrio Santa Cruz, camera heavy around my neck, capturing strangers' joys while mine curdled. Text from Melody, come back. We can fix this. Went unanswered. Elena's? A single smug, see? Told you. Pride kept me away, but loneliness cracked it. On the fourth night I caved, showing up at the hacienda soaked from a sudden squall. Melody met me in the foyer, her robe belted loose, hair tousled from sleep. You're an idiot, she said, but pulled me into an embrace fierce enough to bruise. We tumbled into apologies, words tumbling like dominoes. My insecurity, her pressure, Elena's meddling, a catalyst for truths we dodged. She's family, Melody explained as we lay tangled on her bed, the rain a curtain outside. But she crossed a line, telling me to choose the exhibit over you. As if love's a ledger. Love. The word slipped out, tentative. Her fingers traced my collarbone. Yeah, love. It was the first time aloud, a bridge over the chasm. We rebuilt from there. Boundaries with Elena, schedules carved for us amid the madness. The gallery hummed with progress, crates arriving from Madrid, Melody's vision taking shape. My book gained traction too, shots infused with her essence. The curve of her silhouette against sunset, the quiet strength in her gaze. August brought heat like a forge, tempering us. We escaped to the coast one weekend, Ronda's cliffs dropping sheer to the Guadalquivir, where mist rose like spirits from the gorge. Picnic on a bluff, prosciutto and figs devoured with laughter. Marry me, I joked, popping a grape into her mouth. She chewed thoughtfully. Only if you promise no more running. Deal. But jokes have roots, and that one burrowed deep. Back in Seville, harmony frayed at the edges. Elena's resentment simmered, manifesting in small sabotages. Forgotten invites to meetings, whispers to donors about the American influence, destabilizing the Harrington name. Melody confronted her in the study, voices rising like a tempest. You're jealous, Melody accused, wheels creaking as she advanced. Of what? My happiness. Elena's laugh was shards. Happiness? She's using you, Mel. For her precious book. Snapping pics like you're some exotic muse. Then she'll jet back to New York, leaving you to pick up the pieces. Like Javier did. The name dropped like a bomb. Javier, Melody's ex. The one who'd bolted post-accident, vanishing to Paris with barely a postcard. I'd heard rumors, but not the wound's depth. Melody paled. That's low, even for you. Elena pressed. It's truth. And now this Yankee? Same script. I saw the emails, her editor pushing for intimate shots. She's commodifying you. I burst in then, having overheard from the hall. That's bullshit. Those shots are us, Elena. Real. But the damage was done. Melody's eyes searched mine, doubt a shadow. Show me. I did, pulling up files on my laptop. Images raw with emotion, her wheelchair not a prop but a part of the poetry. She scrolled in silence, then closed the screen. It's beautiful. But, is it me? Or the story you needed? The question gutted me. You. Always you. She nodded, but the seed Elena planted took root. The climax brewed slow, erupting at the gallery's preview gala. A moonlit affair in the courtyard, lanterns swaying like fireflies. Donors milled, champagne fizzing. Air thick with perfume and potential. Melody shone, introducing pieces with passion that silenced the room. I hovered at the periphery, camera discreet, capturing her triumph. Then Elena struck. Midway through, as Melody wheeled to the podium for toasts, a projector flickered to life. Unbidden, unauthorized. Images flashed. My photos, but altered. Melody vulnerable, exposed. Not the empowered curator, but a figure pitted, the wheelchair magnified, captions twisted. The heiress's hidden struggles. My work perverted into tabloid fodder. Gasps rippled. Melody froze, face ashen. Elena stood innocent by the tech booth, feigning shock. A glitch, she murmured, but her eyes met mine, triumph veiled as sorrow. I lunged for the controls, yanking plugs, the screen dying to black. Chaos erupted. Donors murmuring exits, flashes from actual press. Melody's voice cut through, steady as rebar. Ladies and gentlemen, art provokes. Tonight's unexpected. But let's honor the intent. The crowd settled, uneasy applause. But backstage, reckoning awaited. You, Melody whispered, wheeling to face Elena, betrayal a blade. How could you? Cousin to kin, the fracture was seismic. I did it for you. She's poison, look what she brought. No. You did it for you. Jealousy, Elena. Ugly on anyone. Tears tracked Melody's cheeks, but her spine was iron. Elena crumpled, fleeing into the night. I reached for Melody, but she recoiled. And you? Those images. Even raw, they make me a spectacle. Mel, no, I never. Leave. The word was final, a door slamming in my soul. I obeyed, the hacienda emptying behind me. Rain fell again, biblical, washing the gala's glitter into gutters. In my flat, I shattered, sobbing into pillows that still smelled of jasmine, the betrayal twofold. Elena's sabotage, my inadvertent role in the exposure. Days passed in purgatory. No calls, no texts. My book? Rejected, editors citing overly personal tone. Seville turned hostile. Alleys mocking with memories. I booked a flight home, defeat bitter as unpicked olives. But on the eve of departure, a knock, Melody, unannounced, rain damp in the doorway. I need to see you. One last time. We sat on the fire escape. City lights a distant constellation. Elena's gone, she said. Packed for Madrid. Said she was protecting me, but it was control. Always has been. I'm sorry. For the kiss, the photos, everything. She took my hand, calluses from wheels rough against my palm. The kiss? It woke me. Showed me I could want again. The photos. They hurt, but they were honest. You saw me, Mila. Wheelchair and all. Then why? Fear. Of losing myself in you like I almost did in the accident. But running. That's your pattern. Break it. I did. Right there under indifferent stars I promised roots. Not Brooklyn's concrete, but here with her. A kiss followed, soft as absolution, sealing the vow. Fall arrived in Seville like a sigh, mornings crisp with promise. Afternoons golden as ripening figs. The Guggenheim exhibit opened to acclaim. Melody's name etched in lights from Manhattan to Madrid. Critics raved. A bold reclamation of vulnerability, curated with unflinching grace. She flew out for the launch, me at her side. Not as muse but partner, my camera retired for once, capturing moments with eyes alone. Elena's absence left a void, but Melody filled it with forgiveness deferred. A letter arrived weeks later, postmarked Barcelona. Scrawled apologies, admissions of envy rooted in their shared youth. Elena's shadow to Melody's sun, amplified by the accident's cruel math. I thought I was saving you, she wrote. But I was burying us both. Melody read it aloud over café con leche, her voice steady. She'll come around. Family's a long road. We forged our own path. I extended my visa, renting a studio near the river. Walls papered in sketches, light spilling through shutters like invitations. The photo book found a new home. An indie press hungry for queer narratives, unapologetic and true. Shadows of Seville. Love in the margins. Melody on the cover, not posed but laughing, her wheelchair a silhouette against the cathedral's spires. Life wove intimate tapestries. Mornings tangled in sheets, her head on my chest, fingers mapping the freckles she called my private galaxy. Afternoons at the gallery, me assisting with installs, our hands brushing over frames like conspirators. Evenings on the terrace, guitar in my lap. Halting flamenco I'd learned just to serenade her. her claps rhythmic, eyes shining. But lessons linger, scars faint but felt. The betrayal taught Melody trusts fragility. She guards her heart still, moments of doubt when crowds press too close or deadlines loom. I'd catch her staring at the wheelchair folded by the door, a relic of what was lost, and pull her into dances, slow sways to imagined strings, my arms her mobility. For me the provocation's echo was sharper. That spiteful kiss a mirror to my chaos. Therapy sessions via Zoom with a Brooklyn shrink helped unpack it. The abandonment wounds, the flight instinct honed by a mother's vanishing act. You're not her, the doc would say. You're building, not breaking. And with Melody, I was planting roots in Andalusian soil, tender shoots of commitment. Winter brought its own dramas. A funding scare at the gallery, donors balking at edgy shows. We fought it together. Me pitching photo series to pair with exhibits. Her navigating boardrooms with wit sharper than any blade. Victory came in spring. A grant from unexpected quarters. Elena, anonymously, her reparations quiet but profound. She returned that Easter, tentative as a truce. The hacienda's courtyard, awash in azaleas, hosted the reconciliation. Awkward hugs, tears salting the paella. I was wrong, Elena admitted, eyes downcast. About you, Mila. About us. Melody bridged them, her forgiveness a grace I'd learned from her. Not erasure but evolution. As summer circled back, we marked the anniversary of that fateful kiss. Not with rain but starlight on the roof. I knelt, not in challenge but offering. A ring, simple platinum etched with olive leaves. Not a proposal, I said, heart in throat. A promise. To stay. To learn. To love you, wheelchair, wildfire, all. Tears brimmed in her green eyes but her smile was sun. Yes. To all of it. The wedding was Seville at its soulful best. A civil ceremony in the Alcazar Gardens, arches dripping with jasmine, guests a tapestry of artists and expats. Elena stood as witness, her toast heartfelt. To lessons hard won and love that endures. We exchanged vows in English and halting Spanish, rings slipping on like keys to unlock doors. No grand honeymoons, life's rhythms too insistent. Instead, a road trip through the Sierra Nevada wheelchair trails we'd scouted, peaks whispering of resilience. Nights in mountain casitas, fires crackling as we shared dreams. Expanding the gallery to Brooklyn, a joint exhibit bridging oceans. Years folded like accordions. The book became a series, my name whispered in photo circles. Melody's curations earned her TED Talks, her voice a beacon for the differently abled, the differently loved. Elena mended, becoming godmother to the stray pup we adopted. A mutt named Diablo, irony not lost. Betrayals fade but their gifts remain. Empathy honed, boundaries sacred. We argue still, over exhibit risks or my tendency to hoard takeout, but make up with the tenderness of survivors. Love, we've learned, isn't absence of storm but dancing in it. One evening, years on, as feria lights twinkled beyond the hacienda walls, Melody wheeled to the veranda, me trailing with wine. Remember that kiss? She asked, hand in mine. I laughed low. The one that started the war? The one that won the peace. Her eyes, still piercing, held galaxies. I leaned down, our lips meeting soft. No provocation, just promise. Seville sighed around us, eternal, and in that moment, the lesson crystallized. Provocation births pain, but from ashes empires rise. Ours built on ruins, unyielding as the Guadalquivir. And so we endure, not flawless but fiercely human. In the city of light and shadow, two women, once divided by a dare, now whole in its embrace.